What's going on, Suicide Squatters?
Hi, Brandon.
Good to see you. Hey, David. Hey, Margot. Pleasure to see you all again. Thank you for hanging.
Thank you.
Margot, how many times today have you been asked about Poison Ivy so far?
A couple, but I like that other people are as enthusiastic about this prospect as I am. So
I can imagine. I'm not gonna make you answer a Poison Ivy question, but I will ask like a fantasy future question because this is your third movie. You've done such awesome work as Harley already, and you're checking all these boxes. So first, I want to hear what kind of is your favorite box that you've gotten to check so far with the Suicide Squad that you didn't get to do before, but also what's a box that's still left unchecked that you do want to get to?
I mean, I really am quite invested in the whole Harley's romantic life. So a box that I did like to check in this one is seeing her try and date new guys, because it's something that I've always enjoyed seeing when it's popped up in the comics, and something I would like to explore, like you said, Poison Ivy. That is a relationship I'd love to see play out on screen.
That's fair. Healthy relationship choices from Harley all the time, always.
Yeah, always.
David, man, a Polka Dot Man is such a great heart for the film, and in a metaphorical way, like I'm curious if you see this as well, because I feel like I know you're one of us when it comes to being like a super geek and loving this stuff your whole life, and also feeling like sometimes that side of you that you feel like should be a superpower, which could be being smart, being just in love with these characters and having passion about this stuff, can be something that sometimes people make you feel like that's not the coolest way to present yourself. And when you finally do, you realize you're the best version of yourself. Like, do you feel like there's a little bit of a parallel in that?
Absolutely. The coolest self is always the most authentic self, and being the most authentic self that we can be is one of the biggest challenges of being a human being, especially when you live in a society like ours, where you're constantly bombarded with all these ideas and images of what you're supposed to be and how you're supposed to be and what's sexy and what's cool and what's in, and F all of that. Like, you have to find your truest and your most authentic self. And as a storyteller and as an actor, it's so hard because I feel like I tried at different points to build some kind of exterior made out of aluminum cans persona of whatever BS I thought people would want to see. And I just want to be me. And Abner needs to, come to terms with who he is and accept who he is so that he can live his best life. And big shout out to that killer Dark Knight poster in the back. That's the best one of all of the good ones. Yeah. It's so
dude.
Good.
Totally. Yeah. What do you know about the Dark Knight, man? Now, I do want to ask, because I'm so curious. You finally get to be a part of this big R-rated movie, and I think you're supposed to go back to Ant-Man beyond this, back to PG-13. Is that a weird switch to flip, to either go from comics that are PG-13 and R and then to R, or harder to go back?
Well, I wish unfortunately, with the world of Ant-Man, I honestly, I don't know where I'm going next. Right now, I'm actually working on I think it's an R-rated movie, The Last Voyage of the Demeter. But having come from Ant-Man, a really fun, family-friendly PG movie, to Suicide Squad, the only drawback, I mean, it's awesome that James could go as bonkers as he wanted to go with the violence and the language and all the comedy. But the only the only sad thing about all of that is I have two kids in my house who are so freaking excited about a movie that they are not going to see for about another 6 or 7 years. And they don't know that yet. To them, this is like weeks away, like, Dad's Polka Dot Man, we're going to see the movie. They don't know. They're not seeing the movie.
I love it. Well,
I was about to say, maybe we could get them an edited version where it's appropriate. And then I was like, that will be like a 6-minute film.
We'll give them the 1 minute cut. I love it. Listen, thank you guys so much for the time. Congrats on being a part of a great film. You guys brought so much to it. Thank you very much. What's up, fellas? Welcome to the Suicide Squad. Again, for you, Joel. John, for you for the first time.
Yeah, that's me.
John, actually, I'm going to start with you. A wild welcome to the DCEU, man. I know a lot of this movie was practical. I know James takes a lot of pride in that. I want to hear if there was one particular stunt or sequence or something that stands out to your mind as particularly messy or just particularly impressive from what the crew was able to create for your Peacemaker character to be a part of.
So there's a lot there. All of it. The way the crew operated, from even the camera equipment they chose, was to be versatile and to create scope when they needed to, but be intimate when they also desired that. There's a scrolling set of action between Bloodsport and Peacemaker that involves like the best of every department. practical effects and versatility in camera operation and performance as well. Like there's a lot stunts. There's a lot in there that happens. And of course, the payoff is equally as unexpected. So that's it's really cool how all of that stuff came together in that one scene. And that was the most use of practical gore I've ever been a part of.
Yeah, you guys killed it in that scene, and it seems even behind the camera, everybody went an extra mile for it. I loved it. Joel, one of the few people back from the original squad, coming back with James's movie. You told me you had a ball when we talked about the first film. It seems like this one might have been just as much fun, if not more so. I want to hear from you. Was there anything you got to do with Flag that you didn't really get to do in the theatrical version of the 2016 movie that you got to just kind of excel in or do more of or anything like that?
Yeah, I mean, it was a completely different version of the character. You know, it was a, you know, I got to flex some comedic muscles, and it was a much looser and I think also warmer version of the character that I think connected much more with the other characters around. A little less cynical of the world and a little bit more idealistic. And I personally just felt a lot more loose in this version than I did in the first one.
Yeah, that falling in love with a demon might change a person a little bit, you know?
Indeed, yeah.
John, I want to hear from you, man. You're going on to this Peacemaker show. How will that compare in tone and scope, everything to the movie, to the Suicide Squad itself?
Well, you have the same writer, the same creator. You know, James directed a lot of the episodes, and certainly he's involved heavy with production. So I think if you like what you see in the Suicide Squad, you're going to be able to lean into more of those moments on HBO Max with Peacemaker. And I'm wedging this into the answer of my question, but that is a beautiful Lego Harry Potter castle in the background.
Thank you.
East, so congratulations.
It took several weeks to finish.
I feel you on that one.
I'm talking to Rock later today for Jungle Cruise. You guys are both in the DCEU now. I got to pitch you against each other. Peacemaker, Black Adam. Who wins that showdown?
Please tell me what his answer is. You know me, ready, willing, and able. And I'm answering the phone whenever it rings. Like, I'm good. Like, I think that the excitement is starting to build with fans, whether you talk about the conversation of Fast or you talk about now the DC universe. I don't want to say we're on a crash course and it's inevitable. I want to because I'm a fan, but we'll see. We'll see what happens. Tell me what he says. And please
let you know. I love it, man. Well, listen, it's a pleasure to speak with you both. Congrats on a great film, and you both were awesome in it. Talk to you soon. Idris, I'm going to start with you because I have a question, man. I remember when you were first cast in this movie, everybody thought it was Vigilante, and then I visited the set, and they were calling you Vigilante, and then we found out you're Bloodsport. I want to hear about that. That character, was there ever like a version of this where you were operating under a different name, or was it always Bloodsport? Why was there that deception for us?
It wasn't more of a deception, you know. I mean, we just needed to give it a name because we didn't know what character from the DC universe we were going to use. So Vigilante just felt like, you know, a good red herring for anyone that was being nosy. And ultimately, you know, we really wanted to get the character right and figure out who makes sense to be in this version of the Suicide Squad. So, you know, listen, I'm glad that people were surprised because, you know, the Deadshot character is an incredible character and should come back.
I agree, but dude, Bloodsport was dope, and you killed that role. So congratulations on that, man. Daniela, I heard day one to get the job, you had to be interacting with rats. And that was what James really was your final test. I want to hear about what kind of stuff they put you through to make sure, how do you test if somebody is okay? Because I wouldn't have done well. I know I wouldn't have done well.
So they brought this really big plastic box with the rats, already opened. And they didn't tell me anything. They wanted to see how was going to do. So I was like, oh my God, so sweet. And I wasn't pretending, I swear. I picked one up and then he was crawling on my shoulder. I picked another one. Then I found myself me and James, we looked like little kids playing with toys. We were so happy to have them. And I guess I passed the test.
I think you did. I think you deserve the part. You did such a great job. And this is your first English language film. Congratulations on having the confidence to go out there and play it so well.
Thank you. I was really nervous, but as soon as James told me, please keep your accent. I love it. And as long as I understand you, we're fine. So yeah, I was really happy and I felt comfortable.
Yeah, you did such a great job. And Idris, now that you've joined the DCEU and Heimdall has seemingly perished in the MCU, does this make you a DC exclusive actor? Is this your future here?
I think that I'm excited about the possibilities in the DC world. And I think the word of choice to make note of is the word seemingly.
Okay, fair enough. Love it. And my last thing for both of you, if you could see the Suicide Squad crossover and face off with any group of characters from another franchise, I mean, it could be the Justice League, the Avengers, the Fast and Furious family, the Walking Dead, I don't care. What do you think would be the most fun to see the Suicide Squad go head to head with another group?
Go for it.
I would say but it could be like from anything.
Anything.
I would say because I'm loving that show, Schitt's Creek, because that is pretty crazy, and I would love them. Like their humor would be perfect for the Suicide Squad.
That would be hilarious.
I would like to see the kids from People Do Nothing and the Suicide Squad get together.
There is some banter in both of those. I love it. Well, listen, guys, thank you so much for taking the time. Congrats on being a part of an excellent movie. Congratulations on another great film, man. Suicide Squad. It's mind-blowing, and I don't say that as a pun. Dude, you straight up pull like scenes out of like there are several bits of this book, of Ostrander's book, that you put straight in the film with your characters. But I would love to hear from you, man. Like when you read in those books or you remember these books that you read earlier, how do you choose the scenes that you want to adapt and put your touch on that are so specific to Ostrander's work?
Well, I think really from John, it wasn't so much getting scenes from John as it was just the tone and the premise of the entire thing. I mean, I do think of this movie as being a sequel to John Ostrander's stories from the late 80s, where it's a bunch of Z-grade superheroes who are thought of as disposable by the U.S. government and put out on suicidal missions, black ops operations around the world. And really just sticking to that central premise and keeping that there is what was important to me.
Oh, it's all there, man. It's all there. You did a great job. I'm curious, given like the DCEU's continuity, like it's fast and loose, whereas like the MCU is very like, we have this and that, you got to fit in. You didn't contradict anything that has happened in the DCEU before, but I obviously also don't really strive to be like, hey, we are a sequel. But I'm curious, like, did you ever just like, think about maybe I'll just make a straight up multiverse story like Joker was, or just start something fresh with this? Or did you want it to kind of just fit into that like the DCU world-ish?
Well, I mean, listen, it isn't very different with the Guardians movies. I mean, I've made 2 Guardians movies that were completely outside of the rest of the stories at the time. So I never really had to adhere to anything except for I created the Infinity Stones. So that was it. So it isn't that different, but I do, the truth is that David Ayer did a remarkable job both working with and casting a few of these actors. And I love the character of Harley Quinn. I do not think that there's an actor alive that could do a better job than Margot Robbie. So did I consider it? Yeah, I definitely considered it, just doing a Joker with it. But I like the idea of using some of these fantastic talents that were in the first movie and kind of moving ahead with them. And I love Joel. I love Viola. I mean, who's better than that, And Jai, I love all those actors, so I wanted to work with them.
From here, you're going back to Guardians 3, and I'm so curious because you did anything you wanted with the Suicide Squad. There seems to be no limits on what you could do. And then the Guardians were also a part of this crazy story in Endgame while you were telling your crazy story on the Suicide Squad. When you go back to that, is it almost going to be a feeling of like reeling it in? Like, do you feel like you're like, what is that transition like for you?
Listen, it's Guardians movies are just different. It's just using a different part of my brain in some ways. I mean, Guardians movies are more geometric. Like this Guardians in particular is just gigantic. So I'm just finishing the story that I feel like I need to finish, and I'm telling Rocket's story fully, which I need to tell. So these are all needs I have. I don't think I'm reeling anything in. I'm telling that story as fully as it should be told in the way it should be told, you know? And I don't, there's not a part of me that goes, oh, I wish I could do a R-rated Guardians movie. I just don't think it's not native to the source, you know? It's like, it seems like the Guardians should be PG-13 films, whereas Suicide Squad seems like it should be an R-rated film.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's just different things.
I agree with you on that, man. I do want to say before I get to this last thing, the Guardians movies specifically are what started me on this career path, man. I went and saw that 15-minute preview. I drove across the whole state of South Carolina to Charleston just to see that 15-minute preview. And it was in that moment I knew I was going to get in this in one way or another. And I'm happy to be here talking to you about your movies. Man. Mr. Capaldi, it is a pleasure to speak with you. Congratulations on being part of the Suicide Squad.
Thank you. Thank you.
Listen, the Thinker is
Call me
Peter. Oh, yeah. We just became best friends. It's an honor. Peter, the Thinker is a character involved in so many DC Comics stories, and I'd love to hear from you how James pitched the character to you, or were you already familiar with? Like, what was your introduction to the Thinker?
My introduction was the script. I just read the script, and James asked me to do it and sent me the script, and I thought the script was great. And that's really where I took it from. I dug into some of the comics, which is an archaeological dig to have a look at his various incarnations. It was quite difficult to pin down exactly who he was because he changes so much. And also he seems to be quite old, and then he disappears, and then he comes back again. And I thought it was quite confusing. I thought I'd be better just to cleave to the script, stick with the script and try and conjure up that Thinker as opposed to making a connection with the comics. But I did. There was that lovely, there is the first thing, you know, when you go on the internet and call him up, you get that little drawing of him in the orange jumpsuit, which is kind of iconic for him and did, I think, influence James and our Thinker. But yeah, no, I just tried to do what the script tells me to do. It's quite tricky. I mean, James is brilliant, I think, but it's a kind of, it's a very heightened sort of world that you have to try and exist in and be funny and scary at the same time.
Yeah, and the comics continuity, it's a lot to keep up with. It's a lot to learn from the comics. Yeah. It can get a little crowded. I did see. Listen, I saw you. I know you guys are really close. It seems like everybody became really close friends in this film. I saw you drew a comic cover of Count Crawley for David Dastmalchian's comic.
Oh yeah.
I would love to hear about that because I didn't know you had the skills to draw comic covers, man. What went into that? That's awesome.
No, well, it was because David. I love David. I love his performance in this movie. Polka Dot Man is my favorite character because he's this lame superhero, and David is such a brilliant actor, and he plays it with this kind of sad face, which I love. This really lame superhero. So we became great friends. And but he has this comic Count Crawley, which he's created himself, and he writes. And it was just coming out as we were doing the movie, and it was so great because he kind of sells it, and like if you go past his trailer, he's got Count Crawley posters. And basically, if you went to his trailer, I think you'd have a stack of comics, and he would sell you them if you want.
The hustle.
But I just. Yeah, well, but in the nicest possible way.
Yes,
And I thought Count Crawley was a great character, and I loved that whole kind of because we don't have it in the UK. We have the late night horror movie hosts and stuff. So I just wanted to do a little, because David had been so kind to me and so welcoming. I just wanted to do a little gift for him, which was a mock cover of The Thinker meets Count Crawley.
It looked awesome. It was really cool to see that.
Oh, thank you. Well, I went to art school originally, so that was my original training was in art. So I can still draw a bit.
Yeah, you used it well. My last thing for you. This comes from a fan on my Instagram, DC TV Center. I want to give them credit for this question. If you had to cast one of your Suicide Squad co-stars as a Doctor who would you put in the role as one of the next Doctors?
I would put David. I think David has a otherworldly sort of character, and he has also a kind of age. There's a sense about him that he may have lived before in a different way. He's a little troubled, and I think that's very. And he also looks great in velvet.
I love it, Peter. It's an honor to speak with you. Huge fan, and congrats.
Thanks, man.
Nathan, my first question is for you, man. You invent a character with TDK. You and James Gunn team up to invent a character. Talk to me about both inventing this character, but also acting out a guy who can pop his own arms off and how that goes on set.
Well, my participation in the invention of the character kind of went like this. James saying, here's how it's going to go. And me saying, that sounds good. That's what I call participation.
Hey.
Yeah.
And you get a trophy for that.
I take a lot of credit. You know, it's all about the function of the character in the story. What is his function in the story? And TDK's abilities, for me, clearly spelled out his function. And I got it. I know exactly what you need. I know what you're looking for. I know what you want. Boom, let's do this. I get it.
I dig it. It's cool to see you actually can pop your arms off and save the money. That's a nice thing.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Jai, dude, you're one of the few people coming back from the original Suicide Squad of 2016, PG-13 movie versus R movie. When you read the script and you got on set, what were some of the things that really kind of caught your attention that James was taking advantage of that you couldn't have in the first one?
Well, weirdly, there was probably less nudity on the set of this film than there was on the last one. But what was captured on camera was certainly a little more adult. I mean, he was really able to push the envelope with the violence and the humor, but also the heart and the soul. And I think that's what he's done so well with this. We really get to the kind of human core that a lot of these characters, possess. And that's what it gives us the kind of our gateway into them. It's the way we can kind of connect with them. And I think that's why, despite the spectacle and all the amazing stunt work and visual stuff that audiences are going to have, hitting them in the face, there's this sort of beautiful central emotional core to the film. And I think it's going to be quite moving. Fans are going to love it. I can't wait to push it out there into the world.
Oh yeah, it totally lands. So listen, your version of Boomer is such one of my favorite characters in live action from comics. Is there any way we get like a Flash Boomer story ever down the line? You think Flashpoint, multiverse? I don't know.
I've been trying to tell them, let's do it. Anyone out there? Flash, Boomer, let's go. I don't know what happened to that Flash film that was going to happen. If it happened, did it get sidelined? I don't know, man. I'm so down. I think it's a great villain for him. They got my number. Let's do it. If that's what people want to see, then I'd be even more stoked to hear it. But any chance to play Boomerang, I'll be there for sure.
If there was ever a fandom that can start a hashtag, I think these ones will have your back. I think so. Flula, man, listen, Pitch Perfect alum. I want your opinion on how the Suicide Squad, which members would be most valuable in a crossover where we're facing off against, the
very easy.
groups.
Yes, a very easy answer. In order to win an a cappella competition, you need lots of nice pipes, but you need an animal or a person that can just break down a sick rap verse. Someone that could just lay down some Outcast, some Stankonia. It's very obvious. The only person that can rap bombs over Baghdad is Weasel, and I want him on that stage next to me.
I just bought tickets to that music festival.
Yes, you did, and you just got refunded. It's Fire Festival 2.
I'm out. Listen, guys, thank you so much. Congrats on being a great part of the Suicide Squad. Thank you for hanging for a few minutes. Hello, Elise. Welcome to the Suicide Squad.
Thank you so much. I have to say that I remembered you, but I cheated because I remember you because of your hand right behind you, the Iron Man hand.
We got the gauntlet. We got the squad pops now. I got the John Ostrander comic over here. I'm making sure we keep it balanced. It's so good to see you again.
Good to see you too.
I want to start at the beginning of this journey for you because you're playing Sosuria, who is a new character. And you're surrounded by actors who are playing characters who most of them exist in comics. So does that make it a little bit more daunting, or does it give you a bit of like this feeling of freedom, like you don't have that crazy pressure to honor a comic book counterpart?
It wasn't daunting, but it was challenging just because it's such James created this insane world, in this movie, which is so phenomenal and so amazing for the fans, like I am, like you are. Like, we love this genre, we love comics, we love these characters and this world. That the challenge for me was how to find the tone with James of the comedy and how real he wanted my character and all that. That was the main thing. And I feel like with the fans, it's a little bit lighter because it's not a fan that exists in the comics. So you kind of, you're kind of like safe on that zone. But I tend to say, I mean, the comics fans are the best fans in the world. I absolutely love, like, I'm a nerd and I love this world. So these are the best fans. So once you're participating in a film like that, DC, Marvel, whatever it is, it's so exciting that just to be on the Suicide Squad on a DC movie, and with James was just phenomenal.
Oh yeah, us comic book fans are pretty great. We're pretty. So
I include myself on it.
You're absolutely in there. I know you love this stuff. I want to hear, what does your character think of the squad? Because this group is pretty wild. What do you think of them?
Oh my God, Saul, probably the first time that she sees them, it's like, what the ... Like, what are these people? I think that's the first thing. And that's what is great, because the way that James writes the characters, they're so relatable in that sense that it's nobody is perfect or nobody is not perfect. So there's no balance. And I think it's really good. It's fluid.
Yeah. And I have a fun question for you. This is one that some people have had a lot of fun with. Not just DC, any characters from any franchise. It could be the Justice League or the Avengers or the Walking Dead or Fast and Furious. I don't care. What group of characters do you think would be fun to see the Suicide Squad and everybody involved cross paths with in some sort of epic crossover?
Oh my God. Can I say Star Wars or?
Oh my, you're the first person to say that.
I would love to see this squad meeting Ben and Ray and like, this new gang that it's in the Star Wars world, from lately. I think it would be amazing. It would be really amazing to see Adam Driver, playing Ben and meeting.
That's right. And we just got to get you.
That would be hilarious. Like,
yes.
Can you imagine a scene between, Bloodsport and Ben? Or even better, Peacemaker. It would be hilarious.
The egos would
be on like fire.
Yes. Listen, I got to let you go. Alicia, it's so good to see you. Congratulations on another awesome movie. Hey guys, welcome to the Suicide Squad, huh?
Yeah, big time.
Now, listen, neither of you are strangers to big movies. Joaquin, you've been a villain in a Bond film. And in this one, you check in as a baddie in a DC world, in a comic book world. I would love to hear kind of the comparison for you. You still play a gritty, intimidating villain, but in a world where you can have a character like Starro running around. What was that like? How did you dial it in?
Oh, okay. This was great, no? It's a beautiful character, and you have to imagine it all the time, because Starro is a big, huge monster, and it was a fantastic work with the Starro. Yes,
I can imagine. There are shots in the trailer where we see Starro on some people's faces. Now I'm not going to spoil anything, but. Yeah. Did people on set actually wear a star on their face at any point? Was that a real thing?
Yeah, real things. A real Starro, a real starfish in his faces. In the General Mateo also, there are a real starfish, big and I don't know, remember blue and raw and some kind of pink. There are a lot of fuck. It was.
Leave it to James Gunn, huh?
Yeah.
Well, now I want to hear what it's like to get in the ring with Harley Quinn, because you have a couple of scenes with Margot Robbie, and when she goes into full crazy Harley mode, I feel like there's no stopping her. What is it like to act opposite such a wild character?
It was a lot of fun. It was definitely a lot of fun. I mean, it was beautiful to watch Margot playing this character that she's been playing for quite some time in the last few years, and she knows it so well. She gets in and out of the character so easily, and she knows all the depths of the character, and it's beautiful to watch. We had a great time, and we had a bunch of funny scenes, and I definitely had a great time doing it.
What was you guys? What was like the craziest thing? Because I know James took a lot of pride in making a lot of it practical. Like we just talked about the starfish. I know a lot of the blood and the guts and the gore, and there was so much chaos on set. What do you guys have any particular memory of, like one moment that was maybe the messiest, maybe the most impressive, anything like that that stands out in your minds?
Well, the messiest, definitely. I had to stand for quite some time in like to me it felt a pool of blood, trying to crawl and then standing still over that swimming pool of blood. And it was so much, and they kept pouring blood and blood and blood. It was like, yeah, this is gonna be R-rated.
Oh yes, definitely R-rated. Joaquin, I do have to ask you one question about Spider-Verse, man. That's one of my favorite films ever. So now you're in two of my favorite movies of all time.
Okay.
Scorpion, your character, we last saw him alive. Are you coming back? Can you have it's an Academy Award-winning film. I hope you're back for more. Can you say anything about that?
I hope so. I don't know yet, but I hope so. I would like it so much. But
Yeah.
Scorpion was a beautiful character. In the last movie, I just speak a little bit though in the final scene. But I hope so. I hope so
too. Listen, I'm going to leave it with a fun question. If you could see these characters that you play and all of the Suicide Squad members cross over with any other group of characters, whether it's DC, Marvel, The Walking Dead, Fast and Furious, anything, who do you think would be fun to watch kind of just bicker back and forth and get into some action scenes with?
I know, the Downtown Abbey people.
Oh, it's amazing. I've heard Schitt's Creek and now Downton. Oh, God. Oh, amazing. Listen, guys, thank you so much for the time. Congrats on a fantastic film.